Savannah.
And Doug.
Welcome back to S&D's Music Review.
Welcome back, yo.
And if you're new, welcome to our channel.
It's going to be a great channel. Video number 2, baby.
So before we get into our album and sort of topic for today, we had a question left in the comments.
We did. This question comes from one Matt Corona. That might be a fake name, I don't know. It's just a joke. I know who Matt Corona is. So thank you, Matt Corona. His question is, do albums matter anymore? And if so, why might it matter differently to the two of you? Awesome question. Savannah, you want to jump all over this one?
Yeah. I think that albums still matter. Especially now, because so many people, I feel like, as I'm saying it, I'm kind of going against my point, but so many people are now coming out with just singles or just one song and then not maybe releasing another song or coming out with their first album for another 1 or 2 years, like one-hit wonders. But more people, I feel like, listen to albums, or people listen now more to just one particular song, because people just make Spotify playlists or whatever. Less people are just turning on an album and just listening to it. But I particularly like, when I'm studying, just to turn on an album that I enjoy, just start it from beginning to end and just kind of stay studying, but kind of get taken into the world of that album.
Yeah, I agree with you, Savannah. And one thing I'll say too is, because I think the question may come from, obviously, like, now it's so easy to release a single, it's so easy to create a playlist, and I think that'll always be true. But singles have always been a huge part of music, right? Early jukeboxes filled with 45s, people picking their individual singles, and making mixtapes back in the day. I'll teach you about that in a different episode, perhaps. But and so there'll always be playlists. But when you think of great art and great artists, I feel like great artists want great albums, and that's the stuff you really want to listen to. I mean, there's always room for one-hit wonders. Nowadays, you don't have to buy their album, which is great. You're not going to have a New Radicals mess like I had when I was growing up, where I had to waste $15 on this garbage album because there was this one song that everybody thought was awesome. Now I can just include that one song in a playlist and not have to worry about the rest. But generally speaking, I love to just put on an album by someone awesome and have them take me somewhere, have them take me to a place or a feeling. And to what you were saying, just listen all the way through, because you can kind of turn off, but it lights up your brain, yeah. And it's exciting.
Yeah, so especially since I feel like less people are getting records just for the use of actually wanting a record, they just are getting records because, like, oh, it's like cool or like retro or something. Less people are just actually getting a record player because, oh, I like listening to songs on record. So I feel like people are just now listening to one song because it's just free if you have an app that provides you with that song. So
yeah, I think that's a great part about vinyl is, vinyl is you're putting on a record, you're not skipping, you're playing it through. And so that's where, we don't have a huge vinyl collection, but it's really a collection of albums, of stuff that, you can put on and for 45 minutes just jam out to something. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Matt, for that question. Anybody else wants to add any additional questions for our next episode, please let us know.
Or album suggestions.
Or album suggestions, exactly. And this question was so great, and it got Savannah and I talking so much, it led us to our topic of this week.
Yes, we have a topic.
Yes, not just an album.
A topic.
A topic. Calm down, guys. The topic for this week. Mundeline's hottest topic is concept albums.
Yes. This week we're going to be focusing on a specific concept album, but we're also kind of just going to be talking about some other concept albums, but reviewing a certain concept album that we both really enjoy.
Absolutely. So, Savannah, for everyone out there, you want to tell everybody what is a concept album?
That is an amazing question, but not
I
as
know.
good as the one that we just
Not as
answered.
good as Matt Corona's question. I get it. I
Mm-mm,
get it.
no.
The guy's good.
So a concept album is an album that's based on a specific theme or topic or an idea that a band or an artist has.
So it's almost like there's a single throughway throughout the entire album, and
Yeah.
whether that's like a very literal theme and sometimes even a feeling that really comes across. Do you know any examples of concept albums?
Of course. So you have a staple of concept albums. You have Sgt. Pepper.
Of course, you're gonna bring
Yeah.
up the Beatles. Do you know
Uh,
anything besides the Beatles, Savannah?
Yes, definitely. You have David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and then you also have Arcade's Fire at the Suburbs.
Those are a couple of my favorites. So that's pretty awesome that you brought those up. Yeah, I think it's great. And
I just
as-
read your mind when I was writing these down.
Well, and those are older concept albums too. I mean, man, even the Suburbs is getting up there now. But modern music, I think a lot of great artists are still using concept albums today. You think of Beyonce with Lemonade, Kendrick Lamar with To Pimp a Butterfly. I mean, all of Kendrick Lamar's albums seem to have like a theme and a throughway. And even not one of my favorites, but Taylor Swift, her albums all have some connective tissue within them. I don't know that I would call them concept albums, but
I mean, they're like, they kind of have like they have sort of an idea, but not every single one of the songs is kind of related. It's like half of a concept album. It's like
it's
it's
the Taylor Swift of concept albums.
Sep album.
Concept albums. Nice.
Um,
All right, so that's great. Well, are there any negatives you think could be associated with concept albums? Like,
Yeah.
any faults?
I feel like if you're an artist who's trying to make more of like a lengthy concept album, or even just like a normal concept album, if you invest so much into the story at the beginning of the album, you kind of might lose people towards the end of the album, because you've invested so much in the beginning that you've lost them at the end because there's no more story to tell.
Yeah, I hear you, and especially if it's like, well, you train yourself. Like, concept albums, I think, should come naturally. It's almost like an author writing a book. Like there's different chapters and there's different themes within the book, but it all follows it. But some artists can't do that, right? And so they force this concept album ideal on themselves, and then by the end, they're just kind of like forced to create something. It doesn't come naturally, and you can tell it's stilted. But today's album that we're going to talk about is a fantastic concept album.
It's great. But on the note of a fantastic concept album, there is one terrible
Uh-oh.
concept album, but we both
Oh.
enjoy.
Well, it's good to think about
Yeah.
this concept album, but
It's
yeah.
good to think that they put the effort into it.
Well, what album are we talking about, Savannah?
It's metal, like what? It's
Metal Machine Music by Lou Reed.
It's so good, I forgot the name.
Yeah, it is. I can't imagine anyone's listened to it. Well, actually, I'm sure some hipsters have listened to it all the way through. To say that they've done it, it is trash. It is garbage. Lou Reed is amazing. I love Velvet Underground. I love his solo stuff. Metal Machine Music is an Andy Kaufman-esque joke at best, and at worst is something serious and meant to be taken seriously. And it is a terrible concept album.
It's awful.
I don't recommend listening. Well, listen to it for about 10 seconds,
And
and then imagine that for 2 hours.
yeah, the first time I heard that, we were in the car together, and all of a sudden, my just you turned off the radio and that came on, and I just got very scared. But
let's talk about a great
yeah,
concept.
an amazing one. So this album right here is one that I have known for a very long time. When we reviewed Rubber Soul, you mentioned that you listened to that with your parents when you were younger and like heard that. And this one is one that I listened to when I was younger, a lot. And that is The Flaming Lips, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots.
Yes, and sort of one of my favorite memories of Savannah being a little girl is she was almost 2 years old maybe, and in the backseat of the car, and I'm listening to sports radio, and I just hear her singing because I'm listening to sports, and she doesn't care, and so she's humming, and I'm like, what is she doing? And I turn it down, and I could hear, oh, Yoshimi, and I'm like, look at this, is 18 months, she can barely speak, and she's singing Flaming Lips, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots. It's like I had done something right. I had given her art rather than just Disney music. There was still Disney music.
Obviously.
But there was still also some great stuff that she picked up. And
some people's first words, mama, some people's first words are Yoshimi.
So Savannah, tell me a little bit about this album. So since we're talking about a concept album, what is the concept of this album in your mind?
For my mind, it's kind of just someone's journey through space. Like, they kind of start, like, it's kind of like in the title, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, but there's way more to it than that. Like, it's just so good that it's such a good concept album that they kind of had multiple stories that kind of centered around the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the concept, which, especially for me, I'm a big nerd when it comes to space and science fiction, and that's really the theme, is sort of exploring traveling through space, battling aliens, and ultimately, and one of the reasons why I love science fiction so much is science fiction is really metaphoric art toward like humanity and what it means to be a human being, and this album really digs those depths. The philosophy of this album, like each and every song, I think is so me, is so personal to me, and I connect and empathize with Wayne Coyne, who is the singer-songwriter on the Flaming Lips. It's almost like the lyric throughout the entire album, I'm like, yes, I love it. I'm so connected to it, and I just adore this album.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, spaced out there for a second. But do you think that we should get into highs and lows?
Highs and lows. Highs, lows. So Savannah, what do you think? You think you know what my highs are? I don't. Think
I actually don't. Now that I thought about it, I'm like, it's probably like I probably have. If anyone has top two to this album, it's probably the exact same as mine.
All right, what's your top two?
My top two are Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 1.
Yep.
Be specific to that.
And there is a part 2.
And Do You Realize?
Oh, all right. Tell me about those.
So Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots is just, again, I've known this song for a very long time. Like you said, I hummed it when I was almost 2 years old. Okay, sorry. So just I don't know, like it's just so catchy, and like I said earlier, just around the album, there's so much more to it than just Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, but that's literally what the song's title. But it just, I don't know. It's
a jam.
Yeah.
It has a really nice melody, and it's funny. Like some of the lyrics are just funny, and that's the thing about Wayne Coyne is he's a very serious person, but he's also he's a very funny person. Like the lyrics have some nice twists to them. And what about Do You Realize?
Do you realize it's just? I mean, I didn't hear it when I was like 2 years old that I could like sing it like that, but I still remember hearing it when I was young, and it's just another really catchy one. Like the
Yeah,
I don't know. I just
he's a great songwriter.
yeah, and
So Do You Realize is one of my tops as well. And it's interesting because it could be seen as cliche because I think it's been used in a few commercials now. But it's like but it's like in the commercials they only use the part where it's like, do you realize you have the most beautiful face? And it's like, oh, this is very nice. What they don't usually do in the commercials, not usually or at all, is the next part of the song, and what it gets into is this idea that we're all here, we're all fairly insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and we're all going to die. All of us and all of our loved ones.
taking a dark twist on S&D's
Well,
music
no,
review.
but this is what I mean, and this is what I love about it so much is I don't see it as a dark twist as much as a realistic look and an honest look about life and what makes life so precious. What makes life so important is that this is the life that we have. This is what's available to us, and every moment that we have to tell each other how much we love each other, to tell people we care about how we feel about them, to take some chances in this world, because what in the heck else are we doing here? Because this is it. This is all we have. And in the end, while it feels insignificant, every life is so significant because of it. And it really, it's a striking, beautiful sort of thing. And again, it just jives so well with my personal beliefs. And then my other high on the album is Fight Test, which is the first song on the album. And if you remember in episode 1, I also picked the first song on the album as one of my highs here. I love just when an album jumps right into it and gets you hooked right away. But the other thing about Fight Test that I really love, again, philosophically, you look at the lyrics, and what he's talking about is caring about something and putting yourself out there. And especially right now, there's so much cynicism and there's so much of like, well, all sides, everybody does it. And it's this natural kind of thing that we do as human beings, especially as we get older, is to stop taking chances, because you don't want to fall in love because you don't want to be hurt. You don't want to fight for something because you might lose. And it's this fear of loss and losing that we just sit on the sidelines and we kind of snipe at everyone who does care. But the thing is, it's okay to care. And it's okay to fight for the things you believe in. And in fact, that's the better thing to do. You're not cool just because you're sitting on the sideline watching everybody else do something. You're cool if you're putting your passion and your heart into something. And if it fails, it will hurt, but it still meant something. And so always fight for things that mean something. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Especially at times like this when everyone's just going at each other. Like, you said, like, it's just everyone's going against each other on like politics and just everything right now. Everyone's just gnawing at each other, especially since no one's really being able to see each other right now. You're just from another place, you're seeing maybe other people not following social distancing or not doing a certain thing that you're supposed to be doing. Like, they're just taking their like own way, and it might not be the right way, but they're still doing what they want to do.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's a very, and that's why it's okay to say stop. Like, this is important. People's lives are at stake. I mean, I don't want to go crazy political here, so I won't. But if something means something to you, don't embrace it and take it and fight for it. Don't try and sit on the sidelines and play it cool and pretend like it doesn't matter and play this cynical game of nothing matters because everyone's equally bad, because they're not. There's beauty and there's love and there's passion in this world, and we should fight for it.
Yeah. So do you want to get to lows?
Sure. What were your? Do you have any lows?
Lows were kind of hard for me, but I do have one low, which kind of was when I thought about it, I was like, oh wow, this is a lows to this album. But a low to sorry, I just lost it there. My only low for this album is Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 2.
What?
I mean, it's this whole album is so good, and even the songs, like, I mean, it's good, but like I feel like compared to some of the other songs on here, it's just kind of lost where
I agree with you.
it just kind of
I understand what
loses
you're saying.
what it's.
Because what it is, for those, so Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 1 is telling the story about how Yoshimi is going to go fight these robots. And Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 2 is an entirely instrumental song that is essentially a soundtrack to the fight between Yoshimi and the robots. And so you hear some screaming and some fighting, and it's all instrumental. And so I love it because it's playful and fun and really sticks with the theme, but I can see it
normally
as...
love instrumental songs, like just songs, like I love those kinds of songs, but like even on like the lyric sheet, it just is said like Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 2, screaming. Like that's literally what it's done as.
I love it. So
And that's also for the last song on here, which is not one of my lows, but it just says strange talking and screaming.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can be really good to an album, but at other times just doesn't really fit in, which for me is what it is.
I agree. I mean, I don't. To me, they're not low. Like, I embrace sort of the idea that they talk about the battle.
But I'm not saying that the last one is, but like.
No, I know, but like even Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots Part 2, like for me, I can see how it's not for everyone's taste, but I kind of love the idea that they follow up on the song with the actual fight. For me, the song I can skip over is "It's Summertime." Just within the album itself, it just doesn't have the same heft or feel, and so that's the only. And it's not like I have to skip it when it comes on. It's just one of those songs where I was like, all right,
like this is happening.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll keep it on. So was that our highs and lows?
That's our highs and lows.
That is it for this week. So like we said, if you have any questions or comments to leave that down below. Or album suggestions, leave those down below. And if you have anything else, just down below.
Put it down below. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll see you in a week or two.
Yeah. And just know we're all in this together, so